Analyzing an article by Edison Mesa.
Recommending Kalamangalam,
Laura Tan,
and Rachel Tan.
Okay, so let's start with what is the thesis. The thesis is the sentence or few sentences which summarize or gives or serves as a roadmap for the rest of the essay or article, often the most important sentence in the paper. It's mostly at the end of the hook/intro, and it's generally formatted more formally than the rest of the paper. Like I said before, it serves as a roadmap because it allows the reader to understand and have an idea of what the paper and will be about and what will the author will be talking about. Okay, so where do you find the thesis? The thesis is usually in the beginning of the paper, like I said before. It's the last sentence in the introduction. And it's normally just one sentence. And what you want to look for is that you want to look for an argument. And a sentence that serves as an outline for the paper and that gives you an idea and lets you know what the author and the claims that the author will be presenting. So just look for a direct stance on the issue or replicated words from topic sentences.
Alright, so let's see if that worked.
Audacity. Topic sentences are usually the main arguments the author will present. Look for sentences that have a clear, direct stance on the main issue. These are like mini theses, and as a result, should also be mentioned in the thesis. The following paragraph should go on about that topic sentence with providing points to support it, much like the TSs will support the thesis. And then the author's own belief should be supported by facts and proofs.
Finding the line of reasoning. The line of reasoning is important because it's the setup of the whole paper. Every author is different. Every author will have their own method and perspective of looking at an argument. And that's why finding the line of reasoning is so important to understanding an author's bias and an author's stance on an issue. When finding the line of reasoning, you want to look for an expression and an organization, a sequence of ideas. For instance, you often start a paper with an intro which will catch the reader's attention and make sure that they're interested in the rest of the paper. Then you go on to the thesis, like Edison said, and the thesis gives you a basic outline of what the paper is going to be about. From there, you go to 3 body paragraphs, usually 3, can be more, can be less, which are headed by TSs or topic sentences, which are the claims that Rachel was talking about. From there, you're going to have mini claims within each body paragraph, and you're also going to have evidence which backs up that paragraph, and have that paragraph back up the thesis, and ultimately the author's stance on a position. The line of reasoning often comes after the evidence as well, as sort of a connection between the evidence and the TS and the claims that it's supporting, to show the direct correlation between the evidence and the stance the author is making. And in a good paper, your line of reasoning should go step by step, just like the author is taking the reader's hand and leading them through the paper in order to arrive at the conclusion that the author wants them to. At the end of the paper, you're going to have a conclusion paragraph, which if you didn't understand the majority of the paper, because sometimes papers can go over our heads, the conclusion or the thesis is a good place to look for a basic outline, because the thesis is often rivered in the conclusion with synonyms and repeated words from the thesis to the conclusion. So a conclusion is basically just a sum up of the author's main point and their main supportive evidence.
Now, when you're reading a paper or an article, it's important to check whether the evidence that is provided for the reader is actually effective and reliable. So, first of all, you should check whether the evidence is from a reputable source. A reputable source could be a newspaper, a university, a person of authority, or perhaps a government website. So the reason why newspapers are usually a reputable source is because the reporters or the writers actually go out and investigate whatever topic that they're covering. However, the effectiveness of evidence from a newspaper also depends
on the newspaper itself. Like, for example, an article from the New York Times or the Huffington Post would probably be a more reliable source than an article, say, from The Onion, which is a satirical newspaper. Okay, so what types of evidence are there? Well, evidence usually can count as, say, a graph or a visual. Statistics, which by that I mean hard numbers, such as maybe the results from a poll, percentages, and maybe the population. Also scientific research results from maybe a university or a lab, and even quotes.
Finding the thesis. So in this particular slide, we're going to give you a minute to read the 3 paragraphs shown on the slide, and then we're going to ask you to think about which sentence you think is the thesis based on what we've discussed earlier, and then we're going to give you the answer. So that was a little less than a minute, but we're going to go ahead and give you the answer. It's actually the last sentence of this 3rd paragraph. And the reason is that the paragraphs before it are simply background information, they're hooks to lead up to this main point that's made at the end of the 3rd paragraph. Alright, so that's the end of our presentation. We hope that we've provided you with sufficient information to successfully power your way through section 1A of the end of course exam. And we hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Now, you can talk to your teacher about the quiz that we have created for this section, and you can practice by answering questions that most likely will look like the